right. Okay, all right. Are you going to introduce the Holy Walk, or we're just going to?
Okay, what do you want me to do? I talked to Bob Huff.
Robert?
Who is?
Yeah, he started this. This was his brainstorm. He said he was reading either Guidepost or another, was it? And he couldn't find the magazine that he saw it in, but it was a holy walk in the Dakotas somewhere. And he said, he kept thinking about that, and he said every year at Christmas time, God put it on his heart that he needed to do this, and he let it go 3 years. And then he brought it up in Sunday school.
At Grace Church.
At Grace Church, and they said, we can do it. So they started it the next year, which was 1981. And he said, Terry Richardson, Cindy Parks, and Reg, his wife, Reggie, sewed all the costumes, and I think he said they only had 3 tents that year.
It was mostly, it wasn't really tents, it was in some of the buildings.
Huts or something.
His
Yeah,
buildings, one was at the
Yeah.
barn and one was at the garage and, you know.
Now, I'll pick it up there, because this is a question you asked me. It was held, the first one was on Chester Huff's farm.
Chester Huff.
Chester Huff owned the farm, and Bob lived there.
That was Bob's grandfather.
Grandfather. And Bob still lives in the, Bob and Reggie still lives in the same place, in the same home where they did when the Holy Walk was started.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how you tell it. See, it's a first road. When you go out, when you go out here on 331.
Third road.
What?
Third road.
Okay, but it's a first road to your left. You go down here and make the corner to go to Bourbon,
Right,
and it's a first road to the left. I don't
Right.
know what number it is.
third road.
And you
It's
go
third
east,
road.
yeah. And down there on the corner, you'll come, the first corner you come to will be Welcome Huff, Welcome and Bernice Huff. So you go just beyond that, and Bob and Reggie, you're going east. Now, the first farm you come to there, then way back a lane, that's where the first Holy Walk was.
Oh, okay.
So that put it about 4 miles roughly out of town.
Right.
So, go ahead, because you asked me where the first one was, that's the location of it.
Do you remember how many he said came the first year?
As I remember, there was 12 in the cast, and less than 200, right around 175 to 200 came.
I thought he said 500.
No, there wasn't 500. And they brought them all out from Grace Church with one bus.
500.
Did he?
That's what I thought, that's what he
Okay.
said.
Okay,
Bob's
all right,
That's what he
grandpa's.
said.
okay, all
It
right.
was a beautiful night, it was cold, people didn't want to leave. He had a hard time getting people to leave.
They came out on church buses.
Yeah.
1 or 2, I don't know, they had 2 of them, they were rotating or what.
Yeah,
I always told them there's 200 came, but
It
Bob,
was 5.
Bob
that
said
would be,
5.
that'd be the right figure.
That's what he told
At
us.
least I was on the low side, I don't mind that, I hate to exaggerate things that I'm not sure of course. All right, go ahead. Did he tell you why they had to move it?
Yeah. Well, he didn't tell what you tell him, but that's the ones I told him.
oh,
Okay.
well, anyway.
Well, I
He said-
can say 2 things. The distance was a little bit of a problem to drive that far. And his dad, or his grandpa, Chester Huff, did not, real frankly, did not appreciate that many people walking across his farm after dark and having fires and so forth.
Oh,
So it broke Bob's heart, naturally, and then he went back to the church and told the congregation what had happened. Maybe not those same words, but anyhow, I had my brother Lou and my sister Martin Moretto and my sister Martha Yeager were all there, and they said between those, my kids, my bloodline there, they said, well, maybe Jim would sponsor us. So they came to me and asked me if I'd sponsor it, and I thought, well, yeah, 16 12, 16 people in the cast, and 500 people, that would be no problem. Being dumb like me, I said, yeah, that would be no problem. Here we are.
That was before we lived back there.
Yeah, that's when you lived there.
Yeah, and that's when we lived at home.
But it was still down, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you put that pond in, or was that?
No, oh, no, that was
Yeah.
full of, yeah, we put it
We
in.
put the pond in.
But it was a low area and it was full of junk cars. And I could tell
Laid
how,
full of water and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
and I could tell how many sons that Ernie Leeper had by how many junk cars that we pulled out. This is no lie. I mean, we pulled junk cars and fences out of there and piled it up, and that's the first income I made in order to generate some money to dig the pond. Then we dug the pond and we hauled the dirt up and we sowed it. It had special clay in it, and we piled it up along the highway. And lo and behold, we sowed every bit of it. And I think that between the junk that we took out and the dirt that we sowed, we paid for digging, for the digging. So that's how it started. I mean, that's how we got there.
Okay, he said after the first year, then they came to you. And he said something about a real company that helped build all the buildings.
Well, I wasn't quite aware of that. I mean, that's right.
Reel.
Wood reel. They used to make reels, spool
spools.
reels. That's what he's talking to you
Okay.
about out here. And I think Bob maybe worked there or managed that. And anyhow, there was always scrap wood and so forth. And
He used it to build, they used the wood to
Yeah.
build the little huts and stuff.
Okay.
in other words, the company
Okay.
donated some of
I
this
don't
wood.
think we had the tents up at that time, when it first started.
Yeah,
Well,
we did.
well,
He
maybe.
said you rented tents there.
Okay.
Well,
I didn't know.
they
if
were
I-
didn't know
donated
what-
right at first. Well, they rented.
Oh, no,
Oh,
no,
you
I know what he
borrowed
said. He
them. You
borrowed
borrowed
them
them.
from the fire department
And
and.
Tom
every-
and Farron through the National Guard, got us some
That's
tents.
right, yeah,
That's how they started, with a tent situation.
Yeah.
yeah.
Borrowed tents for several years. Then Bruce Jennings helped to get it moved because it was too much for the two churches, too many people, not enough buses. So he talked to Bruce Jennings and he got it moved to the school.
No,
Then they
it was-
talked about separation of church
Yeah,
and state.
but it was held originally, the people were held at the church before they bust them out.
Right.
And then it got to be so cold and rained, and the people were standing outside the church.
The church was full.
Down the sidewalk, way long, you know, that many people. So that's when they got it moved in to the school.
Now, all of
I
you
don't know
guys,
what year that was, but.
all of you folks know how important school and church is. I mean, we keep that separation. And it was quite a undertaking for everyone to allow a Christian pageant to headquarter or hold them in the school. And we, and also, we used and we still do, we use the cafeteria down at the school to make the hot chocolate. So, but believe this, out of 30 years, we have never had the, what do they call it? That one organization that.
ACLU.
Yeah. We've never had them step in so far and put us to task.
Well, at the school, they just gather there and have entertainment and so forth, right?
Yeah, but it's still religious. Some of it was still religious entertainment.
Okay.
It all wasn't. We didn't start out with all religious entertainment. But now I think it's pretty near all religious music or something. They used to have tumblers in there and different things when they were starting, you know what I'm saying. But then we kind of went away from we used to call it Grace and Salem Holy Walk. If you go back far enough, I think you'll find that writing. But
Well,
then,
it says here Grace, Riverside, and Salem.
okay,
Okay.
all right. We went away
That's
from,
88.
we went away from that, and somebody gave us advice, and we started calling it the Bremen Community Holy Walk.
Mm-hmm.
And that took the pressure off of everybody, and
Uh-huh.
it didn't change our our thinking about Christ at all, but it did keep us maybe out of some legal trouble.
So now, what year was it moved from the churches to the school? Do
I
you,
don't know.
That I don't know.
That's what I'm
You
trying
may
to
find
find.
it in there.
okay,
I can remember the night I went down there, and it was raining, and people was in lying a block
But it grew
outside
very-
the church, and I said, that's enough of that. I said, we gotta find someplace to,
but it grew very fast, right?
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, it really took off.
In 88, I think he said the year before there was 1,500 people showed up. So in 87, 1,500.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 6 years.
Right.
Then when did we hit our 9,000? We hit 9,200.
Well, that was 3 nights.
Yes, at 3 nights.
The record is 9,200 went through. And he estimated 130,000 people over 30 years
Yeah.
has seen.
This is the
Wow.
same figure, I just added that up the other night, and that's what I came up with too.
In this 1980, 88 article, it says it starts at the school, so it had to be before
Yeah,
that.
that'd be before that.
So much better down at school. That's probably one of the big things that we could hold the people, we could have entertainment, they had warmth, but nobody.
That was on.
Yeah,
The other thing you gotta realize that some people look at this as could be a moneymaker, so they came to us and they wanted to put a food stand
This is
in.
a trouble
There.
solver.
And,
They
And,
have the dates on it.
and yes, they could have made some
in
super good
81,
money.
it was still.
But I was on the board then, and I said, nobody at this point
Well, the
that
other one
makes
was
profit
88.
off of us, nobody's going to. So we put a damper to that. However, if you know how long you gotta wait, and you do know how long you gotta wait, let's say you got a group, let's say you got a busload, and you can go in and sign in, and they'll tell you how long it'll be, and then they'll take that busload and go out and eat, and then they'll come back. So they're still helping the community, but one organization isn't in there with people, you know. And they know in our advertisement, we tell them there's no refreshment, no
Right.
food or refreshment is furnished by the school or the Holy Walker. Not in the school. The refreshment comes out of the barn, and it's free, of course, everything is free.
Very good churches.
That doesn't happen here.
Well, I think the people in costume went to our church. They got all the buses came out.
Oh, okay.
The other thing we had to watch for, we have some very, very good entertainers, and several of them have their own records, and they would try to push our records in the school when after their entertainment, and we frowned on that pretty heavy. I wouldn't say we actually put a stop to it, but we sure didn't encourage it. I mean, if they could have a stand up and tell about it, but to actually sell the stuff in the school, when I was on the board, we frowned on it. But we had, and we still do, we have some very, very, but everybody if they won't volunteer, I mean, what am I trying to say? We don't allow anybody, we don't pay anybody for the entertainment. I don't care how
It's
good.
all volunteer.
Yeah, it's all volunteer. If they're making tapes and good enough to be that famous and stuff, they still have to volunteer.
Yeah. Now, if anyone has questions, you want them just to
Well, yeah,
go ahead and
yeah.
ask? Okay.
The time to ask them is that we go hit each thing,
Okay.
get a
Right.
question.
Who was on your first board?
What was that?
Who was on your first board?
Who was
Who
on the
was
first?
on it?
Yeah. Well,
Well,
okay.
Bob Huff.
Yeah, but they had, really when it got organized is when we started to No, well, we started getting a lot of people, and it was all free will offering, and we started to show too much money coming in. And we got a little nervous over that, so we incorporated into a non-profit organization. And that's when it really got, when you got organized. Bob and some of his people that you named ran for several years before we incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
Once we incorporated, I think that's when I became president of the board, and Fred Anderson, which is the public accountant down here, he's on the board, and I think he's still on the board, and he kept us within law so that we'd always qualify
Right.
as a non-profit organization. You might be interested in doing this, just to try to follow this a little bit. It cost us, when 3 nights, when we'd hire, okay, after we got that big, then we went to having a tent company coming in and giving us a good discount, but they set up the tent. Instead of us running around trying to find them, and I can remember the firemen's coming out there late at night and so forth, so after we got away from that, we hired the tents put up. The tents will be maintained through a storm by the company that puts them up, and then they take them down. No, you think
dry
that,
them out.
yeah, you think that's the end of it. But any tent that goes up out there, the Holy Walk, it will be cold, be wet, be snowy before.
Right.
So over 3 nights, our cost was so much. So then they take them down, take them someplace and dry them, and then they fold them up and put them back in their warehouse, ready to be rented again. Okay, so when we're running 3 nights, naturally, our tent price didn't change, because if you put up a tent one night, well, for one night, and you still have to put it up, take it down, and dry it, you can go 3 nights, and your costs don't go up very much.
Right.
So during those times, and we ran it 3 nights, and our tent cost stayed about the same, we picked up some money in the treasury. In other words, there was more donated than what was going out. So from there on, after we ran it 3 nights, we always carried some profit, well, not profit, extra money in our treasure. And that made it super nice, because we never had to run out and beg for money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people would donate gas and this, but we don't have to go to a merchant and say, hey, you know, we got this tent expense coming up, can you guys donate some money before we get started? And so when we ran it 3 nights is where we picked up a few $1,000s.
How many people are on the board now?
There's 7 on the board, isn't that right? I think there's 7. I think there's 7 on the board, and they're from I think 3 different churches here in Bremen. And either you go off the board by this, you either resign because which I have done, because you want new blood in, younger blood, or else you get too sick and you're dead. I mean,
Otherwise, you're on there.
Well, I'll just tell you like it is. The secret to it,
What a choice.
secret to it is keep enough younger people involved as we get
Interested.
older and burned out and so forth to keep it going. Because if you start out with the original 7 people, I don't know, not very many of them are even alive anymore, you know, let alone, be functional. But anyhow.
You are.
Well, yeah, but I resigned. I'm on here now as a host.
He's not on the board of directors.
No, I went off. I was on there many, many years, and I just could see that I had to, even though it was on my land, I didn't want to, I just wanted to get off. And 99% of the people don't know that I'm not even on the board anymore. I mean, we haven't changed places or for location. I do exactly the same thing now I did 25 years ago. I maintain all the paths and so forth, and I try to stay, and I don't go to any of the board meetings.
You wanna know who the board of directors are?
Not like I-
Okay. Jeff Welborn
No,
is the president.
This is now.
This is now. Jeff Welborn is the president. Jody Devine is the secretary. The treasurer is Fred Anderson. And the other members are Ernie Yaki, Mike Haig, Martha Yeager, and Lois Shealy.
Jim and Loretta are hosts, along with Max and Linda Huff, are what we call the host. And why Max and Linda are on there, because a few years ago I sowed, and a lot of people don't know this, but I sowed them 2 acres of ground right next to their place. And that includes
The barn.
the barn where we have hot chocolate, where we hold the people, and the lane that goes back to the Holy Wall. So that is not owned by me anymore, by Loretta and I. But
Now,
so
within that, then there's a lot of different committees. There's a steering committee, there's publicity, school coordinator, parking and buses, tickets. At the school, they give out tickets to get on a bus, not that they pay for them, but
Right.
it's a color coordinated thing so they know who comes first or what. And then they have the entertainment, they have the kitchen, they make all the hot chocolate at the school, and the buses bring it out when they come. There's a village has several people in different areas that they're in charge of. Costumes, there's quite a few on that. They have some that get the animals that they have down through there, the donkeys and the cow and so forth. They have a big group that works on lanterns and heaters. And then they have the angels and the trumpeters. They have the training sessions and the guides. They have bus guides.
Walking guides.
Walking guides, and yeah. They have a separate group in the tax tent, the soldiers, the luminaires, shepherds, wise men, scribes, chapel, the people at the barn, people who do the fire barrels, the fishermen, and they have traffic control. So it takes a lot of people in different areas. That's just the main ones.
What she named is, we really call them the steering committee, the key people. You got the board, and then you got the key people below them, and between the board and these key people, the pageant is put together. And
But then there's a bunch of them under each key
Yeah,
people.
yeah, well, these are the key people, and they're responsible to get their workers. And I mean, I know the different positions they have, but it's not my responsibility, no more. But when let's say we had a board meeting and Jeff's doing this now, we're getting close to the Holy Walk time. He'll go down and hit each of these key people, and where are you at? Are you got your job fulfilled? You need some help? And when you get, and that's how you go. And when you get down to the last board meeting before the Holy Walk, you better get a yes from every one of these, because you're in trouble. Because somebody isn't, not that they haven't worked at it, they just haven't found the right people to fulfill what obligations they have.
Well, for example, the walking guides, they like to have 40 walking guides, because it takes a lot, and that's hard to find that many walking guides. A lot of people can't walk it.
And a lot of people aren't dedicated
And
enough.
some of them aren't dedicated enough.
So you gotta get that combination. They gotta love to be a guide, because there's no glory in it. I mean, it's hard work.
It's hard.
Now, who
If they-
trains the guides?
What?
Who trains the
Okay,
guides?
there's 2 parts of the guiding. Tell them about Carlene.
Carlene Leeper.
Our daughter.
Our daughter, she calls around and she tries to find guides, and that's a hard
Yes.
situation. This year was one of her better years, so she had a lot of new ones that come forth. And then Barb,
For 2 nights, she asked for 2 nights.
2 nights, but you can't always get 2 nights, just maybe 1 night. So
But
then that
remember-
means you gotta get that many more for the second night.
Remember, they come there at 5 o'clock, and if they get out there before 1 o'clock in the morning, we've had a short
It takes
night.
them an hour to go through, at least.
Right.
At least an hour. By the time they get back up to the barn, they're tired, very tired, because that's uphill and talking all the time. And so,
Some of them make more than one trip.
Oh, yeah.
they make
Oh, yeah.
more, they have, some nights they have had to make 3 trips,
Right,
and that's a hard,
right.
You
yeah.
gotta be
They don't
very-
like to make 3 trips.
And we don't like for them to.
2 is about what they can almost
Right.
handle, really. But some have, made 3 trips already.
Okay, then,
So, and then Barb Jones is the one who, they
Train.
have training sessions for everybody that comes. We like for them to come to a training session beforehand. And then they separate them into different groups. And so then Carlene takes the guides in a separate group, and they go through it, and Barb tells, and her and Barb, I would kind of give them the idea of what they do and everything. Then they have, on Thursday night, they have a walkthrough before it actually starts, so they can get the idea of how to do it, what to say and stuff.
They have a manuscript to follow too. don't
They have a manuscript,
well,
yeah.
well,
That's a story too. I don't know when that came out.
but they've got a pamphlet that they give out to all the workers. And
Yeah.
in there, it'll cover the
It covers-
soldiers' jobs, it will cover
Background about Bethlehem,
your
all
biblical
these,
names
yeah.
and all of that.
And, so that they pick out a biblical name, and the group that they take, it's like a family, they're a whole family.
Right.
And so they,
They appoint,
It's
the
just-
guide will pick out, right off the bat, when they get off the bus, the guide will pick out, and he has to be pretty sharp to pick out somebody that will, what we call bring up the tail. They'll give him a Coleman lantern. So the guide's got a Coleman lantern, and the father or the head of this family got a Coleman lantern at the back of that
to
group.
keep them all together.
So everything is as a family as they go through the Holy War. And that has proved very successful.
About how many people do you think it takes every year? I mean, everybody.
Every night.
Well, I don't know what
Well,
Bob told you, but if you cover all of it, I'd say, what, 250? We always
I
say
imagine.
right around 250 people.
That's out there. That does not count
I
it.
know.
I don't think that counts. That's in costume.
Okay,
Oh,
let's just say though, 250 people total. I don't want to, I've heard 300, but anyhow,
I don't know.
but there's quite a crew down at the school that makes that operation work. You gotta have, you gotta have everybody doing their job efficiently in order to make this thing, so there's no dead spot in the line or anything. Because we know, by doing it 30 years, we know that we gotta keep things moving or it's gonna get, at 1 o'clock, you look back and you're tired and you're thinking, man, where could we speed this thing along? Well, being a farmer, the only way I know we can speed it along is when we bring a bus out, we open the door, we'd be like pigs. You turn them loose and you just shoot, shoot, shoot. And I think we could cut down our time, but that ain't our purpose. Our purpose-
The bus, there's guides on the buses too, that they get on the bus at the school and come out with. They prepare them to go back into time.
2,000 years,
And as soon as they get off the bus, they're back in time.
2,000
So
years.
it just,
And there are 2,000 years sequences until they get back
To
to the chapel, where the preachers are. And this is their main story. They go out a different way, but the main thing they want to tell them is, now, you've just been back 2,000 years with a guide. Today in 2010, today you need a guide, and your guide will be Jesus Christ to carry you on through life. You get one theme, and that's a theme they use. That you've been back 2,000 years, and the last place that the guide is as a family is at the chapel. And we'll have three ministers there, and they'll rotate. There'll be one minister, we'll all open up the tent, bring the people in, and then one minister will talk to them, and then each group comes through, they rotate. That's what you gotta do.
Do you have an estimate of what percent of the people that visit are Amish? I mean, it seems to me like there's
How many
a,
are Amish?
Oh.
what percent
Why
would
you
be
bring that
Amish?
question up? You gotta put Amish and Mennonite in the same.
Right, right.
In the same slot, because it's hard, I can tell the difference, but the average person
Right.
cannot tell the difference. But you can tell they got something a little different.
We don't have any percentages, but young people, this is their night out.
Right.
They bring their dates and,
But some of
golly.
the other ones come with babies.
Oh, yeah, but not the Amish don't come with babies, but
What about Hispanics?
Wait, go ahead.
Are you getting quite a few Hispanics coming
Oh, yeah.
now?
Some, we've got one guide, two guides that strictly speak Spanish. Oh, yeah, yeah. And if we don't have a Spanish group ready for him, we'll let him take another group. But we always know where he is. And then, they may call from the school and say, we got a Spanish group coming. Then they'll send, and this is, we don't like it because we're changing in the middle of the stream their leader, but we have to do it. So, because we don't have enough Spanish guides. So then somebody will run down there, one of the other guys run down and take his place, and then he'll come back and take the all Spanish group. Okay, back to your question. What would you say, Loretta?
what?
How many Amish Mennonites?
Oh, my gosh, I'd say 3/4.
Oh, I don't believe that high.
Oh, yeah.
Well, just say half and be safe. Yeah, yeah. You get the biggest surprise when you see how many Amish show up.
Yeah.
Right,
That's your number one surprise.
that's right.
One of them. Now, as a rule, they're very, very good and attentive. Once in a while, you'll get a whole group, and it don't matter whether they're whites or Amish or who they are. You'll get a group once in a while that's very unruly. Not very often. This is what the guides are trained to do. If you get a group that's unruly, that's spoiling for other people, and out of this many thousand people, it will happen. The guide may come out of character and try to straighten them out. And if that doesn't work, he'll pull a soldier and they will remove them from the holy wall. We don't allow people to wait 2-3 hours and have 2 or 3 kids come in and mess it up for 40 of them in a group. We just won't put up with it. And
Is that about how many there is in each group?
yeah, we liked about, a bus holds 50 and we try to split it right in half. On that, but we got to keep the family together. I mean, if you bring 10 people, you're ready, and the gentleman unloads a bus, we try to move those 10 people together in one group or the other. So, but we shoot for around 25.
Keep the families at least together.
Yeah.
We don't want to split.
When they come together to the patch, and understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Now, to us, we know what's going to happen, because they're all going to meet back in the barn anyhow. So we're not. They don't understand that, but we know in an hour they'll be back in together, drinking hot chocolate. But they don't understand that when we're unloading them, so we don't try to. But anyhow, I would say she thinks three quarters. Someplace between 3/4 and a half.
Well, it depends on the night. Some
Yeah.
nights we'll get more
Oh, yeah.
than other nights. But they are good donators too.
Yeah,
They're good donators.
Do they
Now,
help out at all?
What was that?
Do they help at all in the,
I tell you what happens.
no?
Different, we cover a big area that we draw help from. Some bishops, Amish bishop, will allow their people to help in the Holy Wall. Other one says, no way. So yes, we do have some Amish. You can't tell them because they'll have a beard on and you can't tell, well, this guy, you know.
Real?
Right.
But,
But
But,
they're going costume and stuff, they don't really want them to do that.
yeah, and they know there's a lot of pictures being taken and some bishops are, I can remember I went with one of our best guides and all of a sudden he stopped showing up. So I went back to his home and I said, what happened? He said, our bishop is death against me helping in there.
He was so good.
He was so good. I mean, he was open-minded enough to see the good.
Yeah.
But the bishop thought, I don't know whether he thought, you know, he was going to get pulled sideways in his religion thought or what. But he had to stop. He had to stop. Then we got some other Amish that have been doing it for years, and they haven't had to, the bishop hasn't got down on them. Does that answer your question?
I've never heard people complaining about the weight, but do you ever hear of complaints of weight?
Yes, we do. Some.
It seems
We'll
like people
hear
don't
more about
realize.
it before they go through the wall. You'll hear them when they get off the bus, oh my gosh, I had to wait 3 hours to get out here, or 2 hours to get out here. But after they come back up from the walk,
They've forgotten all about that.
oh yeah, it's all
It was worth
praise.
their weight.
But we cannot,
But they, you know, we tell them that, and that's why a lot of people don't come, because they think they're gonna have to wait 3 hours, you know?
oh no, of course.
I think if they realize they get their spot and they could go have dinner or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
and come back, that kind of thing helps a lot.
I think it does.
Yeah.
And we do everything in our power to make it go faster than that.
What-
Believe me, but there's a limit of, you got so much
Oh,
to
yeah.
show the people, and the soldiers are also, a lot of people don't realize this, the soldiers are to take care of people that are,
The crowd,
yeah,
keep
but they're
them
crowd
moving.
control.
Keep them moving along.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, keep going. Oh, they'll get nasty, man, you'll hear them, they'll come in that old tent, smash over that tent, get out of here, what are you guys slowing up for? It's all planned, it's all planned. If you get a bunch of soldiers that aren't on the ball, they cannot, they're too kind-hearted, or whatever they are, we gotta get after them to get them going faster. So we try. We wish nobody had to wait. An hour in the school with good entertainment, that's no harm. But when it gets 2-3 hours, and 3 hours is a very extreme, I would say overall probably 2 hours on an average.
Well, the school closes at 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
And sometimes that gymnasium is full when the doors go shut. So till you get that many on through and out, why,
well, when you close the doors at 9 o'clock, like she said, you already got 5 buses full of people. You'll have 500 back in the village already on a tour. Until you clean all that out, it just takes a long time.
Can you tell us where, like, people come from long distance, or bus groups come in, tour buses? Well, a little bit
Yeah,
of
tour buses.
that.
Tour buses have a fit with our Holy Walk for this reason, and I bet most of you guys don't even know this. The Holy Walk don't even set the date. The school sets the date. It's always been like that. We gotta have, and when we ran it 3 nights, we have to have the school empty Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night in order to have 3 nights. Okay, so we drop off Sunday. Now we gotta have a place to hold them. So there's gonna be no ball game in Bremen High School gymnasium on a Friday and Saturday night. Okay, now here's a pattern, and it's been like this for 20-some years ever since we used the school. If they have if we have, I can tell you right now when our date is next year already. I haven't even went to the school. The first week in December was this year. There's no ball games this year in the school. for 2 nights. Next year, it'll be 1 week later. So next year, it'll be the second week in December. Because we know, I mean, we go to school in January to get our date set. And this is the way it always is. There'll be, in the second week in December, Friday and Saturday night, the games are all away. The third week, coming into Christmas. The third year, it'll be the third week in December. Then if you go the fourth week, you're past Christmas.
Yeah.
So we never worry about that. So then it jumps clear back to first week in December, second week in December, and third week. The school sets it. We don't like it, but we accept it because what would we do without the school and the cafeteria? We'd like to have,
Buses and cafeteria.
so that screws up the tour buses that come in. So most of them have learned now that
We
they.
got calls this year, you know, what weekend is the Holy Walk?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's over with.
I had an Irishman call me the other day and he says, when's the Holy Walk? I said, well, I can tell you. I said, it'll be the second week in December, 2011. I said, you just missed it by 1 week.
Gee.
They called the churches too.
Can you say something about the cookies? How do you get the cookies? How
We
many
keep
cookies?
Please bake your cookies early and freeze them. Please bake your cookies. We keep telling all the churches, you know, bake cookies. This year, we have had more cookies. The last few years, we ran out of cookies, and then we have to buy them, get them from Woody's or someplace. And, but this year, for some reason, this year, we've had a lot of cookies.
We've
We've had a lot
had
of cookies.
cookies left over, which they'll be using
They use them.
down the youth center, at the church down there,
At the daycares, or they take them, you know,
they're not thrown out, don't get me wrong. They
Find
are,
a place for them to be used.
yeah, they're gonna be used, guaranteed.
they'll be used.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
So,
Why,
that
the other
means-
thing happens, the Amish are extremely good. If they'll come as a church or a group, they'll bring cookies when they come on the
Sometimes.
bus. And they'll.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not
Yeah.
always.
How far away have people come?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
what?
China, we had them from China this year, talked to them personally.
This year.
We've had them from Germany this year, we've had them from England, Ukraine.
Yeah, well, that, you know, they're here visiting, and other, they come with other families. But we've had, last year, I know, we had a bunch of them, Amish come from clear down in southern Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
And drove clear up here, and they had to go home and milk yet that night. So I can't imagine what time he milked.
Well, some of them, they'd leave at 2 o'clock and till they got back to Berlin, they said, we want to go to bed tonight. When we get home, we'll just go to the bar and
So
start
we
milking
get,
cows.
from Pennsylvania, we've had bus loads come in, and just different places.
The way, there were three different girls that I talked to this year up in the barn, and the guy brought them to me, and they were in here at Culver Military Academy, 10 girls now, is that right?
Right.
They was on a scholarship, and they came up from Culver Military Academy, and they were both from China.
Mm.
And another came in from Norway that was on some type of a scholarship. Well, there were 3 of them that came out of, from Culver Military Academy.
Hmm.
And I like to be in the barn, even though maybe my work should be 99% done the night of after the pageant gets put on, it starts. If everything goes right, I'm done.
If it don't snow or
If
rain.
it don't snow or rain or nothing gets icy or anything like that, then I really like to be up at the barn, and while the people are drinking their hot chocolate and cookies, I just like to mingle with them. And see, nobody knows me, so I can talk to them and ask them any questions I want to. And
Now, did Bob say it's been canceled once or twice because of the
okay,
weather?
Yeah, twice.
twice out of 30 years. The police stopped us one time, said the roads were too icy, and Dr. Cecil Burkett was one of the workers, and with a wind chill with 35 below zero one night, and he
Wow.
said, Jim, it's not safe for the people to be out. Now, that's a major project When you decide to cancel one night, you gotta, it's hard to do because you gotta get on television, you gotta get on radio, because they're already
Yeah.
coming in
Yeah.
for so many,
If a
many
bus
miles
comes
away.
in,
It's a
they're just
major
in,
problem.
you know?
Yeah,
The only thing that breaks my heart the worst is have a cancellation and have somebody not know it and come in on a bus.
Yeah,
Now, they're stupid, and when the weather is bad, they got numbers to call. And if there's any doubt, if I was loading a bus from over Pennsylvania or something coming in here, I'd be on that phone making darn sure that
Right.
that thing was gonna take off, you know,
Yeah.
won't be there. But
What
only
ab-
2 nights out of 30, you figure that out, that's pretty good, that's not very.
Well, and then the one night, they just took the buses down the lane and they just went to the village and got back on the bus and left, you know, I mean.
Was there a
it
long,
didn't-
cold walk?
Yeah, it's really a cool, windy walk.
yes.
the
What-
village up to the
what about
farm.
publicity? Is there publicity?
Yeah,
Is there an attempt to really spread the word or control it? Like in the festival for Indiana,
Yeah.
the Holy Walk isn't in there. And-
publicized, it was at one time.
Yeah,
But we got at one time, we had so awful many that we just couldn't handle them all. And so we kind of quit,
yeah,
you know.
Probably,
But,
I would say just word of mouth is half of it
mostly,
now.
yeah.
yeah.
You know, we're all on television.
Now, this year, seemed like we got it publicized a lot more. They had a couple of them go up to the TV station and was on one, and they got on the
Radio,
radio one time too,
yeah, down Plymouth.
yeah.
What was the attendance this year then? Was it, it didn't, people didn't have to stay real late, right? I mean, you got
This year?
finished earlier
No, you're a little.
than some, or?
Monday, Friday night, we put about 2,000 through. Then Saturday night, if you remember, it started to snow, and those that know when to come, a fresh snow brings them out.
Oh,
And
really?
we ran 2,000, let's see, that would be another 2,800 on Saturday night, which gave us 4,800.
Okay.
And that was a night that our minister ran Jim DeMorris, he's been out there long enough to know that the second shift on Saturday night is the hardest. Because they know, these ministers know that somebody's got to work pretty long, because they don't leave until
They're the last ones.
Right.
And the preacher, Ted, is the last stop. So they can't, you know, so anyhow, Kevin, our minister, got home at 2 o'clock Sunday morning and was there in the pulpit at 8:30.
Hope he had his
Dedication.
sermon for the next day.
Yeah.
When I retired off the board, my request to the rest of the board member, I'd like to have somebody on the board that would represent our farm,
Oh, uh-huh.
our pasture place. And our granddaughter, Jody Devine, and she was one I picked because she was the most active when I retired. Oh gosh, she is so active. So anyhow, the board stepped up and voted her in along with. I mean, she wanted on the board.
Yeah,
I wanted her on the
Yeah.
board, and the board
Okay,
wanted
watch
her,
it.
and she's been an asset ever since.
Oh,
But
well,
if there's a question about if there's a question rise up in the board about something on my farm that they want to change or so forth, then Jody would come to me and ask me, and I'd say, whatever the board wants, that's okay with me. And we've never had one ounce of problem between us and the board. Did you see that one article?
Yeah.
This one or this one?
This is yours.
a
This
lot
is
of the past,
one of the best articles we've had. If you don't think we don't get publications sometime, there's my wife and I on a balcony of our barn, and there we're in the front of the manger.
Yeah.
And this was clear back in 2001. And that's a good article.
Yeah.
I've got, I can leave this, and you guys can look it over if you want to, or
Yeah.
that,
I thought this one in the Michiana magazine is.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good article.
yeah, that's a good article.
That was one of the better articles.
This was someone who actually went through.
That's
Yeah.
right. Those are the ones we like.
About the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
And she also was the first, you know, and I tell our Sunday school class, with the average age in our Sunday school class is 80. And of course, you know, pretty near all of them have heard about the Holy Walk for 30 years. So I tell them, and I happen to be president of our class this year, and I tell them, you guys are so,
Is this the one you had there too?
No.
how do I say,
This one from this year, I think.
not excited, what do I say, you know, it's old stuff,
I don't know what.
Right.
it's old stuff.
Old paper or what.
Can you imagine, and that article out there really pointed it out, can you imagine being the first,
I've heard of it.
being through there the first time?
Somewhere.
That's where you,
Maybe the rest of it.
it's unreal.
That gets you.
See, that's the end of it.
I helped
That's
Dick
it.
We're trying something new this, we just don't stumbled on this. We're gonna have a thing up in the barn, and invariably, people will come up and, what can I do to help? What can I do to help next year? And we're gonna have a sheet of paper there on a clipboard,
Sign up.
and have them sign up, and with their phone number on. And we'll contact them. And that's when they're the most excited, is when they come up, get in the barn, have some hot chocolate, and can start just relating what all they see. And invariably, but we never done that before. We just said, call us, you know, a certain time next year. But we get it in writing, their phone number, maybe we only get half of them that say that they want to help.
That will help your
Oh,
daughter
yeah,
with
this
finding
would
people,
help
right?
tremendously,
Yeah.
yeah, tremendously.
Well, Dick Smith would ask them, what did they see on the way that was strange? And the little kids, their eyes would light up, and they would talk about seeing the angels. And, you know, what did they say, and so forth. And they just, you know, they were just glowing with, you know, the report about that. And that's really, I thought was very touching when you saw that.
We're very careful, of course, here again, we train these soldiers, and what they do
Right.
after they're in training, you know, they're on their own out there. And they know, they're trained not to do certain things. Number one, they're never supposed to scare a child.
Right.
If they're gonna pick on somebody and throw them in jail, don't throw them in jail if they've got some children with them.
Or their
We got two
parents.
different places that we throw the soldiers, put them in jail. And this is biblical times, I mean, you know, but there's a certain time or certain people you don't wanna
Right.
pick on. You don't wanna, we're not geared to scare any child.
Right, that's good.
And they're trained not to. However, down in the village, the soldiers have to get a little, well, they get a little mouthy, but they're doing it to get the crowd to move. And they're only talking to the head group of that group. They're not talking to all the people, but they act like, they say, let's get this group going, let's get this group going. Well, that telling the guide for that group, you know,
Right.
there's an open spot, let's get going, you know, and that's your job.
Right.
Pat Rao called and she gave me a couple stories.
Yeah, Pat's ahead of our bus guide. Is she
Yeah.
on the board?
I don't know.
No.
Yeah, well, she'll have stories.
Well, she
Pat's a super
said,
bus guide.
she was a bus guide and she said, were there any questions? And she said this little boy about halfway back the bus held up his hand and she said, what's your question? And he said, I really like that, but can't you have it in the summertime? And then she told me Mark said something to her one time. She said, maybe you better not tell that one.
Yeah. Well, let me tell
We've
one.
all heard that one.
We got these gals that work in there with the hot chocolate and so forth, you know. They take the cookies and put them out here on this table and the hot chocolate, so they're in a position where they can see these people coming in, just coming in off the walk into our barn. And a lot of times I'm there to greet, but there's one time this person came in, and I tell this from women, but they had a little baby stuffed in here, you know what's in here, and had a little head sticking out. And these girls got betting whether this child was still alive or not, whether it was cold. And some of them thought it was dead, it was froze. And so they watched her when she came in the barn and came over and got her hot chocolate. Finally, there was a little movement, and this little head moved, and the child hadn't froze to death in there.
It's unreal. It's unreal. We've had people come with high heels on.
Yeah.
You know, these little kids, their little feet are just froze till they get back out of there,
Right.
some of them. They just don't know how to dress warm.
Well, yeah, a lot of people they just don't do that kind
No.
of thing, right? So, yeah.
And it's always publicized.
We always
Dress
tell them
warm.
they gotta dress warm.
But they're so used to thinking that, well, we're gonna be on a sidewalk, and we're just gonna have nice little smooth walking, and, you know, it'll be a piece of cake, be a cakewalk.
Well, they're
15
not
minutes.
familiar with farming.
That's part of the whole thing, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
We did have a gentleman come from Israel, and here
yeah.
again, when it gets closer to Christmas, I told you that we get the third week sometime, which gives us, it's the closest patch of time for Christmas. Okay, that's when you get your most foreigners, because they come in here to the United States over Christmas vacation. They don't come for the Holy Walk especially, but somebody will mention the Holy Walk.
Yeah,
Either somebody in their family or something, you'll see it on television, and there you get a lot more foreigners in because they're coming to the United States anyhow.
Well, you get
Understand?
more people coming because they make it a ritual every year.
Right.
They bring their family
Right.
through every year. But what I was gonna say is how we got it to be pretty authentic is we had a guy from,
Oh,
where was he from?
well, from Israel.
Israel someplace. Anyhow, he gave us a lot of guidelines on different things. And that's kinda how we got
But he
the,
says, he also said, you guys don't realize that your lay of the land is so close, so much like it is over there, you hear about where Jesus walked, you know, and so forth.
Up and down.
He says, with that hill and that lake down there, he said, it's so close to the way.
well, we've had a lot of people that have come from over there and stuff that went through, and they said, it's amazing how authentic that we're doing it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you get them away from the street lights and the cement walks and stuff, you know, and you put them out in the country. It's pretty rustic, but that's the way we.
Now, I had, in the barn, on the wall, we had some pictures in frames, and I was gonna bring them along and I forgot them. But, if you're interested in those pictures,
About 6 or 8 of them.
to put up, Grace Church, when they first started it on our land, they would give us a picture every year of one of the, one of the soldiers or something. And they framed it, and we put it up in the barn, and I was gonna bring them along, because I thought you guys could have them if you wanted
Well,
them, so.
What else?
thank you so much.
Okay, we appreciate it.
And,
Appreciate it. One statement I like to make, I just want to leave my testimony, and it's very, very simple. This hasn't anything to do with the Holy Walk in itself, but I've learned this by working with many, many different type of people. And one of my closest friends is Jerry Smith. Jerry used to be the minister here at the Baptist Church. And he used to live with us. But between my experiences and what Jerry said is this. He said, Jim, don't ever judge anybody by their color of their skin, their denominations, what kind of tattoos they got. Don't ever judge them by that. You judge them like God does. What's in your heart is what counts. And I put that in my mind, and I can accept many, many different things now that I couldn't accept before. And I tell people, if I get up in heaven and I see any different denominations, signs, and you go here, you go here, I'm going to be very, very disappointed. I can tell you that. I'm going to be very disappointed. And I don't think I will.